My daughter had turned 9 the previous Thursday. She was the kind of child who moved through the world with her eyes wide open, noticing things adults walked past without a second glance. She had a habit of pausing in doorways to look at a room before entering, as though she wanted to understand it fully before committing herself to walking in. Other children ran ahead, she observed first. The one time my grandmother watched my daughter do this, she laughed quietly and said, "She's a thinker." Good. That was high praise from her, and I had stored it away the way you store things that feel important. It was precisely that quality, the careful, observant stillness, that led her into the back bedroom while the adults filled the louder rooms with conversation. And it was that same quality that brought her back out holding a ring. We were at my parents' house for their annual Sunday lunch. It was the kind of gathering that had once felt genuinely warm and had gradually, over many years, become more obligation than pleasure. The food was always good. My mother was a reliable cook, and the table was set with the same care she had always brought to it, the good plates and the pressed cloth. But there were silences between certain people in that house that had hardened over time into something more permanent than ordinary awkwardness. Fault lines everyone knew the shape of and navigated around without discussing. I had learned to arrive a little late and leave a little early to keep the difficult windows as brief as possible. My daughter had been to enough of these lunches to understand the rhythms of the house. Which rooms were comfortable, which conversations to stay out of, where she was welcome to explore. She found the ring under the dresser in the back bedroom, half hidden by the baseboard, settled in a thin layer of dust as though it had been there a long time without anyone noticing. She came back into the dining room with her palm open and her face alight with the particular pleasure of having found something unexpected. "Mom, look what I found under the dresser." It was just sitting there in the dust. It was a gold band, thin and delicate, with a small cluster of seed pearls arranged symmetrically around the center. I knew it before she had finished speaking. My grandmother had worn that ring every single day of her adult life, on the third finger of her right hand, until the arthritis in her knuckles made it too painful to get on and off. After that, it had lived in the small cedar jewelry box on her dresser, the one that smelled of old powder and something faintly floral I had never been able to identify. Or so I had assumed. Seeing it in my daughter's open hand, slightly tarnished from however long it had been under that dresser, made my chest tighten unexpectedly. Some objects carry people inside them. My daughter tilted her palm toward the light. "It's really pretty." "Whose was it?" "That was your great-grandma's ring," I said softly. I took it and held it for a moment, feeling its weight, remembering exactly how my grandmother's hands had looked wearing it. Strong hands, warm and capable, that had done 10,000 things I would never know about and a handful that I would carry with me forever. That was when my sister Sandra walked over from the other side of the room. She was 3 years older than me and she had always occupied considerably more space in our family than I ever had. Her opinions arrived before she did. Her preferences presented themselves as facts. She had a talent for making it seem as though any other perspective was simply a failure to see clearly, and she had been exercising that talent since we were girls. She reached out and took the ring directly from my hand, the way you might pick up a glass someone had left on a table, without asking, without hesitating, as though the question of whether it was hers to take had not occurred to her. "Where did this come from?" she asked, turning it over and addressing the room rather than my daughter. "Under the dresser in the back bedroom," my daughter said. Sandra looked at the ring for a moment longer. Then she closed her fingers around it. "This is a family heirloom," she said in the tone she used when she was stating something she considered settled. "It belongs with the family." She turned to my daughter with a smile that was carefully constructed to appear generous and did not quite manage it. "Family heirlooms are for real daughters, not for little girls who wander around picking things up off other people's floors." The room went quiet, the particular quiet that falls when something has been said that everyone present heard and no one wants to acknowledge. You become aware of small sounds. The refrigerator, the traffic outside, the creak of someone's chair. My daughter looked at me. She was 9, not naive. She understood the shape of what had just happened, even if she didn't have full words for it yet. I watched it land on her, the small flinch, the careful stillness that came after, the way she looked down at her hands, which were now empty. I had worn that same expression in that same house, in younger versions of this same moment, and seeing it on her face was something I had not been prepared for. My mother suddenly found something requiring her attention at the stove. My father became deeply absorbed in his coffee. 2 of my aunts examined the tablecloth. My cousin produced a brief, uncomfortable laugh that had nowhere to go and died before it could become anything. I looked at Sandra, her fist closed around my grandmother's ring, and I decided something. Hey, I said. I put my hand on my daughter's shoulder. Let's get your jacket. We said our short goodbyes and walked out into the afternoon before dessert was served. My daughter put her jacket on in the driveway without being asked, which was something she rarely did, and I understood that she wanted to be gone from that house as much as I did. In the car, she sat with her hands folded in her lap and watched the neighborhood pass by the windows. She was doing the processing thing she did, working through something quietly, turning it over inside herself the way she turned objects over in her hands when she found them interesting. I did not rush her. After several minutes, she asked, "What did she mean by real daughters?" "She meant something unkind," I said. "It wasn't true." "Was the ring really great-grandma's?" "Yes." "Did great-grandma want you to have it?" I kept my eyes on the road ahead. "I believe she did," I said. "I'm going to make sure of it." That night, after my daughter was asleep and the house was quiet, I went to my closet for the cardboard box I had kept at the back of the shelf since my grandmother's death 4 years earlier. She had died at 87, clear-minded and deliberate to the end, which was entirely consistent with everything she had been throughout her life. She believed in saying what she meant while she still could, and in the weeks before she died she had written letters. Not to everyone. Only to the people to whom she had specific things to leave behind in words. My letter had arrived in a sealed envelope with my name written on the front in her deliberate, upright handwriting. I had opened it on the day of her funeral, sitting in my car before I could make myself go inside the church, because I had known that whatever was in it would undo me, and I wanted that to happen somewhere private. I had read it once, wept over it, folded it carefully back into thirds and returned it to the envelope. Then I had put it in the box with her other things and left it there because grief has its own timing and I had not been ready. I sat on the floor of the closet, took the letter out and read it again. All of it slowly from the beginning. She had written in the plain and careful way she spoke. No unnecessary words, no sentiment for its own sake. Everything exactly as large as it needed to be and no larger. She wrote about her life, the things she was proud of, the people she had loved, and a few things she wished had gone differently. And near the end she wrote about her possessions. She was a practical woman. She wanted her wishes documented somewhere, even if only in a letter. She wrote, "The pearl ring, you know the one, the gold band with the small pearl cluster. I want that to go to you. You have always reminded me of myself at your age. The way you watch things quietly before you speak. The way you love people completely without making a show of it. Keep the ring for your daughter when she is old enough to appreciate it. She has the same careful eyes. I noticed it the first time I watched her look at something properly. She sees what matters. She'll know what to do with it when the time comes." I read that paragraph 3 times. At 11:47 my phone lit up on the floor beside me. "Kinda. I hope you're not planning to make this into something. It's just a ring. You'd better not tell your daughter stories about it." I took a photograph of that paragraph, clear, in focus, every word legible, and sent it to Sandra without adding anything else. It took her some time to respond. When she did, she wrote, "That doesn't prove anything." I put the phone down and sat with the letter a while longer. Then I went to bed. In the morning I called my mother. I told her calmly what my grandmother had written and asked whether she had known. There was a pause that ran longer than it needed to. "She may have mentioned something to that effect," my mother said. "Did you know that last night when you said nothing?" Another pause. "Your sister feels very strongly about these things." "Mom," I said, "my daughter is 9 years old. She was told directly that she doesn't count as a real daughter in front of the whole family. And you turned back to the stove." My mother offered partial sentences and careful qualifications. The language of someone who knows they behaved poorly and has not quite assembled the words to acknowledge it. I listened until she was finished, told her I needed some time and ended the call. That afternoon I reached the estate attorney who had handled my grandmother's affairs. He was semi-retired but remembered her warmly. I described the situation. He told me that a signed, handwritten letter expressing personal wishes, while not enforceable as a formal codicil, was a documented expression of intent that clearly established what my grandmother had wanted. It was, he said, the kind of document that would carry genuine weight in any conversation about the matter. He said that if Sandra refused to return the ring, there were paths forward, and he offered to put something in writing on my behalf if I needed it. I thanked him and told him I would start with the letter itself. That evening I sent Sandra a scan of the full letter, the entire document, not just one paragraph, with a single line above it. Grandma was very clear. Please return the ring by the end of the week. She called me within an hour, not calm. She said things about fairness and about always being overlooked and about how letters written by elderly women can mean many different things. I let her finish. Then I said, the letter says what it says. I'm not going to argue about what it means. I just want the ring back. She said I was making everything about myself. She said I was destroying the family over a piece of jewelry. I'm not overreacting, I said. I'm just not letting it go. Those are different things. And I ended the call. The ring arrived 4 days later in a small padded envelope on my front step. There was no note inside, just the ring in a small bag. That evening I sat with my daughter on the couch and showed her both the ring and the letter. I read the relevant paragraph aloud. She sat very still, listening to it the way she sat still for things that mattered to her. She said, I have careful eyes, my daughter said when I finished. She did. And she wanted me to have it someday. She did. My daughter held the ring for a moment, turned it over once, and then handed it back to me with a calm certainty that reminded me powerfully of my grandmother. You keep it, she said. Until I'm ready. The Sunday lunches remain paused. My mother calls periodically, navigating things carefully, and I am patient with her because she is my mother and because she is genuinely trying. Sandra and I have not spoken since the evening of that phone call, and I do not expect that to change soon. The ring sits in my jewelry box on the small velvet tray. My daughter is in 5th grade now, doing well, still pausing in doorways to understand rooms before she enters them. She has her great-great-grandmother's careful eyes. One day she will have the ring to go with them because that is what my grandmother wanted, and my grandmother had the good sense to write it down. She knew that clarity, offered plainly and in time, is one of the most useful things you can leave the people you love.